Steph Weaves Tales presents Paxwood, The Trial of the Demon Slayer, a paranormal fantasy web serial written and narrated by Stephanie Gildart. Episode 14, A Little Too Quiet. On Aunt Gina's advice, I planned out the drive to ensure we would arrive in Kentucky in full daylight. If I'd been a normie, I probably would have dismissed her emphasis as silly superstition. But demon hunters understood. It didn't matter whether her concerns involved ghosts, demons, fae, cryptids, or dangerously territorial ordinary humans. She'd said to travel by day, so I did. With Jeremy. He ended up driving most of the way, although I took over for a few quiet stretches to get more familiar with my new one-handed steering aid, a ball that rotated as I turned the wheel, so that I never actually had to let go. Another change, but manageable. After some initial awkwardness around road trip preferences, figuring out which music was or wasn't appropriate, the right temperature setting, and so forth, Jeremy and I relaxed into a pleasant mix of idle conversation and personal stories. I asked Jeremy about his past. Initially, he pushed back. "My life's not nearly as interesting as yours," he said. "Oh, I don't know about that. Even the quietest moments are a treasure. Demon hunting might be flashier, but we do it so that we can all enjoy normal human experiences." Jeremy hummed in consideration, then told me about the best, worst family road trip he'd ever been on, with his parents and his two sisters all crammed together in a packed SUV that broke down halfway through the 5-day exploration of national parks and historic sites. They still got to Niagara Falls, though it ended up being in a rental with a trailer towing their broken car along behind them. I begged and pleaded to ride by myself while they towed it just to get away from my sisters, but my parents had the wisdom to understand that if it wasn't running, it wouldn't have any air conditioning, and we'd all be even more miserable if I got heat stroke, Jeremy said. At least the rental had a bit more space, since we could stuff all our vacation baggage into the broken car. I laughed, shaking my head. "Can't relate. Only child. I've got a bunch of cousins, but we only really see each other during holidays and summer breaks. My aunts and uncles are all over the place." "So when your family went on road trips, you got the whole back seat to yourself?" Jeremy snorted, but it was a playful thing. "Lucky." I shared it with the cooler and the car trash, and I was always on snack and cleanup duty, I said. But I guess I didn't have to put up with living human beings trying to poke and prod me. I'd let my hair grow out a little longer that year because I thought it'd be cool to have a ponytail, and they wanted to braid it. They woke me up multiple times with their fingers twisting my hair. I chuckled at that. "Is that why you keep your hair so short? Fear of braids?" "Must be." He rolled his shoulders, probably getting a little tired of driving. "Let's stop for gas and a bathroom break in Fickle, just ahead," I said. "We can swap there, too. I'm pretty sure this is the closest station to my aunt's place." Fickle was an unincorporated village nestled along Kentucky Route 80. It had seen much better days at the height of the coal mining industry in Clay County. Gas station, elementary school, post office, a decent farm supply, a couple of churches. Just the bare necessities. For anything more, we'd have to head into Manchester, about 20 miles further west. "You paid last time. I'll get this." Jeremy took out his wallet once he'd parked the car next to the pump. We'd had this fight several gas stations ago when I tried to explain that it was my trip and I could absolutely afford to pay. But he insisted he would not be a freeloader. So I let it go without further commentary. As we pulled in, the number of buildings along the main drag with fresh coats of paint surprised me. Where some would call it a sign of burgeoning life around the community, the hairs on the back of my neck prickled. "Nice place," Jeremy said, proving my point. "It's changed since the last time I was through," I replied. With lips pressed together, I wandered away from the car while Jeremy started filling the tank. What was missing? Cars came by, not so frequently that it felt unusual, but enough to create a pulse of human activity. I could see a clerk inside the convenience store, and another patron, too. It was green, but there were no flowers. A quiet day, but no birdsong or rustle of animal life. The leafy trees hissed as a breeze cut between them. A few people were moving around at neighboring businesses, but I didn't notice any children. Little village. The emptiness after spending so much time in a crowded city could be registering as something wrong when nothing really was. Still, I returned to the car and hopped into the driver's seat, buckling in. Aunt Gina might have more of an idea about what was going on here, and it wasn't worth poking any hornets' nests. I watched Jeremy smiling that gleaming smile of his as he took in the surroundings and monitored the gas pump. His shoulders relaxed as if he'd let go of all his burdens and all he had ahead of him was possibility. Sometimes, if others around me were comfortable and it was only anxiety putting me on edge, I could draw from their comfort and talk myself down. Not this time. This was my demon sense. Not even a squirrel chittered in a tree. Well, no, actually. There was a large red squirrel hunched on a low branch just across the street. But it was so still that I'd missed it at first, and on second look, I wondered if it was a decoy or decoration. It made direct eye contact with me, tilted its head, and leaped from the branch. From another tree nearby, a single black crow rose on steady wing beats. Strange. Jeremy slid into the passenger seat, still smiling, though he caught my furrowed expression. Is something the matter? Hard to say what, but yeah, I said. My aunt might have more answers. Let's get moving. Between my memory and the robotic guide voice of the Maps app, we left the state route behind and followed a winding road that kept company with a waterway, south another 15 minutes, past several cleared fields in between stands of trees. Then we arrived. The feeling of calm was almost immediate as we crossed onto the family farmland, maintained now by my aunt. Summer wildflowers flashed in an array of colors along the side of the driveway. Blue jays twittered in the tree branches. The farmhouse looked strong, with an updated roof and a bright coat of pastel green paint and clean white trim. Fresh black mesh screening enclosed the front porch. Aunt Gina was always improving the house or land with whatever budget she could manage, and it added up over the years. Her truck was missing from its usual spot, but it could just be she was out and about somewhere on the acreage or running a last-minute errand. She knew how to take care of herself. I parked to the left of the porch, leaving Gina's space open. Looks like my aunt's out, but I know where the key is, I told Jeremy. Wait here a minute. Behind the house, there was a set of hutches with Angora rabbits. The balls of fluff hopped around cheerily as they heard my approach, noses twitching, hoping they might get some sort of treat. The rabbits were Aunt Gina's latest small business venture. Ethically collected Angora wool was in high demand, and every bit helped on a small family farm. They were adorable, and I couldn't help but stick a finger through the chicken wire and scratch one behind the ears. "Hello, sweethearts," I said. "Have you seen Gina lately?" Whether they had, they couldn't exactly let me know. Along the side of one hutch, there was a small sliding panel that was easy to miss if someone didn't know what they were looking for. I slipped it open and fished out the spare key my aunt left there. No notes or messages with the key. But since it was in its usual spot, I didn't think much about it. Usually, from here, I'd go in through the mudroom in the kitchen, but Jeremy was still waiting around front, so I circled back to the porch. "You said your aunt lives here alone? And she manages this whole place?" Jeremy asked as I came back. "She employs a part-time assistant and seasonally hires farm hands, but it's mostly just her," I said, nodding. "She loves it out here, though." The wooden porch didn't even creak beneath our steps. She must have reinforced it somehow. The key fit smoothly in the lock, and as I turned the handle and pushed the door open, I felt a faint tingle of magic. Someone like Sarita could tell me just what sort of spell was on the door. But knowing my aunt, it was most likely a protective barrier to keep incorporeal entities at bay. After my brief encounter with a closet monster, she'd put her skills to work ensuring that paranormal pests couldn't cause any other problems in the house. The foyer had a little shoe rack for kicking off shoes and keeping the dirt outside, so I took mine off, and Jeremy followed along. 2 comfortable old couches filled most of the living room to our right, oriented in an L shape with one another. There was no television in sight, only a series of bookshelves with works that spanned decades and genres. In one sunlit corner, a writing desk with a closed laptop sat invitingly, tidy, but with a couple of sticky notes that indicated recent use. "I'm going to assume that we'll be in the 2 guest rooms," I said to Jeremy. To the left of the foyer was the staircase, narrow and steep. "Do you want to crash in the living room for a bit, or go upstairs and catch a nap on an actual bed?" Jeremy considered this thoughtfully. "Honestly, I need some rest and downtime." I got him on the Wi-Fi and showed him up to the 2nd floor. I'd take the bedroom that I usually took, and he'd take the other. Simple as that. My aunt had taken the time to turn down both rooms with fresh sheets and a stack of towels. Once Jeremy was connected and cozy, I considered laying down for a rest myself. But I felt drawn to the 1st floor, curious to see if Gina had left us a note somewhere. I checked her writing desk, but there was no note there. An assortment of Angora wool in varying states, loose, bundled, and spun into yarn, half covered the dining table. In the kitchen, I spotted a grocery pad magnetized to the refrigerator door, with the top page torn off. No overt messages anywhere. I double-checked my phone in case I'd overlooked a text or voicemail. If Gina was running an errand and planned to be back soon, she probably didn't even think she needed to leave a message. Maybe we'd just missed each other. I didn't remember seeing her truck headed opposite us, though. I sent a message to let her know we'd arrived safely, then fished an old and well-loved paperback copy of a fantasy novel from the shelves and settled into the cozy armchair to read until she got home. She wouldn't be long. Would she? Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Paxwood Book 2, The Trial of the Demon Slayer, is written and narrated by Stephanie Gildart. That's me. Theme music composed by Human Nature. Visit PaxwoodTales.com to read the story as it unfolds. Want to read over my shoulder while I write what's next? Catch me live on Twitch for laid-back virtual co-working and crafting. If you like the story and you want more, like, review, comment, subscribe, and if you're feeling particularly entangled, buy me a skein of yarn on Ko-fi. Carrie's Paranormal Tip of the Day. The more you take proper care of your domicile, the more innately secure it becomes against many paranormal threats. Even the simplest bits of maintenance, like dusting and sweeping, infuse a home with human care, staving off entropy and decay.